because I'm such a strong believer that all the answers are within. And it's really not something we need to go out and find some gurus to bring us the wisdom. So now that we're finally knowing, all the knowing is within.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson, and I'm back with another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, it's an absolute pleasure to be here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. Welcome to episode 226 of the podcast, and man, I am super pleased to welcome Amrit Singh. He's today's guest. He's a high momentum life coach, and Amrit and I will focus our chat around growth and the importance of doing so during those moments of discomfort. As you'll hear from Amrit, it's a key to achieving anything beyond what we already have, and I'm telling you, it's a fabulous conversation that I think you'll all enjoy. So without any further ado, here is my chat with Amrit. Enjoy. Hey, Amrit, thank you for joining me today here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's a pleasure. I know we've been trying to do this for a while, and we finally got the time to sit down and connect like this. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Audley. I'm super pumped.
Yes, I am as well. Here on this podcast, we talk so much about how people can live their best audacious lives, and there's different pathways to get to that point, and we're all on this different path. We're not doing the same thing to get to this place because it's a very individual journey. But I think that's really much in line with the work that you do, because you help individuals and clients sort of get to their own place of happiness, and you sort of guide them through your own methods and techniques. So I thought it makes sense, and maybe as a starting point, I can get you sort of talk about the work that you do with clients and how you do it.
Yeah, thanks for that. Because for me, really, the real motivation behind the work I do is that I learned that I don't have to give anything or do something.
Okay.
I just have to hold the space, like a little bit like grandma on the park bench while you're playing on the playground.
Right.
And hold the space for this amazingness I see in every single one of my clients, and for the potential I see, and for the expansion I see, because I'm such a strong believer that all the answers are within. And it's really not something we need to go out and find some gurus to bring us the wisdom. So now that we're finally knowing, all the knowing is within, So what I can help with is to remove distractions and remove all those things which take us away from who we truly are. And then that light begins to shine on my clients. And that's just so exciting and so rewarding to be part of that.
Those aha moments when people realize they knew the answer all the time.
Exactly. Like in your last podcast, if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It was really cool. I love that. I connected so much with it.
Well, I think of the example of, say you're looking for your glass and they're sitting on the top of your head, right? And you're spending all this time trying to find them, but meanwhile you had them the entire time. That's very much what these aha moments are like, and sort of the clouds open up and you're like, oh, I see it all much more clearer now.
Yeah, totally. No, and I love that. And it is so fun and so rewarding, and such a great field of work to be in. So I'm blessed.
What got you on this path, Amrit?
Oh, for me, honestly, if I go back all the way till I was 14, 15, it was smoking weed. And because it really was that connection I could feel to, oh my God, there is more to this life than what I had previously known. And so, when I talk about this, usually people are like, oh, wow, awesome. So I can smoke weed as much as I want. Oh, there's a side effect, right? There's this, the weed is a teacher, is a guide, is something that allows you to open the door. When you start depending on it, it becomes a crutch. And if you depend on it too much, you just end up lying around watching Netflix, eating chips. Nothing happens in your life.
Right.
And that's when you know you got a problem with it. But I don't want to demonize the marijuana, because I think the plant is such an amazing plant to educate us and teach us. But it's a little bit similar to ayahuasca or mushrooms or any of those. You know, if you take that stuff every day and then you're trying to drive your kids to school, you got a problem.
Right.
And when you have a problem, you need to adjust that. So I'm trying to, this is like a big thing on my TikTok channel. I talk a lot about, I'm trying to get this message out there of, hey, it's not if this is good or bad, right? It's about like, what did you learn from the plant? And can you replicate that without the plant? Because that's the real power and the real magic of it.
Got you. So how long did it take you to learn the lessons then?
Well, first from 15 to about, I think I was almost 25 by the time I moved to India. So it was a long period where I smoked a ton and nothing changed in my life. I was just stuck. I was lying around. I was, I felt this connection with the idea, but it could not integrate in my life. I had all these amazing ideas, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate to that. You have these amazing conversations and it's so deep and you know everything. And then your actions don't reflect that and nothing changes in your life. And you're like, I don't know, maybe I just have to smoke more weed, right? And then you smoke more weed and then even less changes in your life. So again, want to get the message out. The key here is to learn the lesson. And then being able to connect to that same thing without smoking. And that's when you're on the way.
Was there, I mean, oftentimes when we sort of get to that moment of realization, there's, a spark, a trigger, something that kind of, turns that light bulb on. Was there something for you when you got to that age of 25 and you're like, oh?
Well, for me, my aha moment came with the practice of Kundalini yoga and meditation. And when the first time in my life, when I truly meditated, like when I really went deep, and not just like a 5-10 minute thing, but, after a couple hours of meditation, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so high. I'm so much higher than the weed ever took me. And it reminded me of that same energy, but I was not stoned. I had the capacity to integrate that in my life. I had the capacity to make choices. I had the capacity to change my relationships and to really change myself as a human being. And so for me, that was my big aha moment where I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know this is possible to achieve this any other way.
Right. So then I've got to ask, because very much what you're talking about thus far is, your own self-discovery. When did you make the transition that you were able to help others?
Oh, very quickly, I started to learn more about Kundalini yoga, which was my path, and I became a teacher. And so I was teaching for a long time. And then I came to the point where I realized the limitations of being a teacher. Because when you're a teacher, you're just saying like, oh, I have the way, just do what I say. And the other person gets like a pretty decent outcome, right? They get about 80%, but they're dependent on your teachings. They're depending on, oh, Amrit Singh said the right way is to grow a beard and have a turban and do Kundalini yoga, and it's limiting. And so now I'm at this new point where as a coach, I really step into like, hey, we all have our own path. Mine is with the beard and the turban. Yours might be completely different. Mine is with meditation. Yours might be with Tai Chi. But ultimately, like it doesn't matter if you're Christian or Muslim or atheist or whatever, all these paths lead to the same goal. And the goal is within, and God is within. And Jesus talked about it 2000 years ago. And then Muhammad said the same thing. And then in the Hindu religion, all that, it's all the same teaching. And so when you come to that point, you realize, hey, this is my path. And then the work with a coach becomes so interesting, because now suddenly you have someone on your team who encourages you and believes in you and uplifts you and expands you. And now you can truly trust your own path, and you don't just have to, be a copycat and do what someone else is doing.
Well, and I'm glad you made that final point on, the copycat, because that's kind of where I was going to sort of talk about with you, because I think, and one of the biggest, and again, I'm just sort of giving my perspective, I think one of the biggest challenges oftentimes is that comparison, that what are people doing? So-and-so's gotten this far and I'm not there yet. Excuse me. And it just seems to be that there's so much emphasis and focus on what what's lacking versus what individuals have.
Yeah, totally. And there's so much derangedness in there. I mean, all the different religions of the world have their fanatics, and the fanatics say, oh, but here in this line in my book, it says this and that. And every other person who doesn't do it my way is bad, and I'm the only one who's good. And, I've been at that place too, where I thought I'm like on the only right path and everybody else needs to be told about my amazing path. And now that I'm almost 50, I'm at the point where I'm saying like, oh my God, I was such an idiot. But finally, like it took a little longer, but I realized that.
That's funny. The realization, I mean, those are always nice moments to get to, like, oh wow, I get it now. So I understand. So can we sort of talk about that discovery of your path, what that looks like, and or at least how you help clients get? I know you sort of touched on, you let them lead it, right? Because it's really their journey, their path as a coach. But yeah, I wonder if you sort of can provide some context on that.
Well, for me, really, the key is in that I help people in my first session to connect with purpose and to connect with meaning and to really answer the question, why did you come? Why are you in this body? Why? Right? This is such a big question. I still remember this so clearly when I was 8, 9 years old. And I asked my parents, I said, why? Why are we doing all this? Why is this life like this? And they were just like, they didn't have the answers for me. And so I really, that's like a thing which gives me a lot of joy, to really help people find their purpose and find their passion and find their joy in life again. And then to really trust to follow that, even though that might not make as much money as the job in tech or the job,
Right.
which been paying the bills. And now suddenly, someone says, I want to be a podcaster, right? And then
Right.
people are going, oh my God, but you could make so much more money over here. And saying like, but that's my passion and that's what I love. And that's really, I think that's so essential, because I think especially for us men, we've been so conditioned in this world to just be like, hey, we're the providers, we're always strong, we never cry, we never show feelings, we just have to show up and do. And then by like 10:30 at night, we're completely exhausted.
Yes.
We're just, the only thing which gives us any joy is to drink that one beer and watch some TV for an hour. And then the next day it repeats again. And then you're in this rat race, right? Where it's just all suffering and pain, and it's not necessary. I mean, there's other ways, and that's really what I want to bring into the world.
In the example you gave where, someone, leaves their big tech job and goes off to, follow their passion. It's so true. I remember a friend of mine, he worked in the finance industry, and he did the job, he did it for many, many years, but he had a true passion and love for golfing. He wanted to open up a golf course, and we actually wanted to work on a golf course. And he could have been doing anything. It didn't matter what. He just wanted to be in that space. And I remember when he sort of made the decision that he's quitting his 7-figure job to go work on a golf course, and people couldn't understand.
Again, wrap their mind around it.
It just they couldn't get it. And I remember when he told me initially, my first thing was like, hey, are you sure? Is what you want for yourself? And you can see, Amrit, you can see the joy in his face. He goes, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing opportunity for me. I've got to go. And I just remember like, hey, knock yourself out. But others around him just couldn't understand. They looked at him like they thought he was absolutely crazy.
Or they thought he needed help, and maybe they needed to admit him to a mental institution. And the interesting thing, those same people are the ones who by 45, 50 are completely burned out because they hate their job, they hate their lives, they end up in some addiction, whatever it is, like, I mean, there's so many addictions which are not drug related.
Right.
And like they have some sort of coping mechanism, their body shuts down, they develop a heavy illness, and then they start asking them these questions, then they say like, okay, what do I need to change?
No, and it's interesting because I remember one of the individuals. I can remember past dialogues, and maybe even after that, where she sort of talked about just kind of being in this. It's defined as that rat race. Gotta go to home, go home, take care of family, go back to work, that cycle again. And you could tell. And again, I don't want to sound judgmental from a judgmental place, but the sense that I got was that she wasn't happy, or certainly wasn't fulfilled in what she was doing. And whereas you got this guy just quit his job on his golf course, tickled pink and loving life, right?
Of course, yeah. And that's really the key, to find that place of fulfillment and to step out of these societal norms where you need to have a house which has 8 rooms, and you need to have at least 3 cars, and you need to send your kids to the most expensive schools, and you need to just make more money. It's all designed in that way, right? When we were 18, 20, we didn't care about the money. We're like, oh, I made $500. I'm a millionaire now. I can do whatever I want, right? So, but times have changed where then, by 30, you have this big mortgage, and then you got your babies, and then you have that extra money, and then school starts, and then each school is $1,000 per kid. And then you're in your mind, you're thinking, if I do not make this $8,000 next month, my whole life is going to come to a grind. My wife is going to leave me. My kid's going to die. Right. It's not true. This is this false belief of the only way to happiness is through money. And it's kind of like we've been conditioned through media over the last 30, 40 years into that system. And when you look at the global economy, that's really what keeps it going, what keeps it expanding, right? And of course, the big businesses are excited about getting us to buy more and spend more and expand economy, because they're businesses, they want to make money. I understand too, but let's just not get caught up into that, right?
Gotcha. And it's hard, I guess. Again, when you're looking sort of across the way, and we get caught in that comparison. It's hard to say, oh well, no, just focus on me. I'm wondering how you help your clients work with a comparison issue, or deal with that.
Oh, it's really powerful to come to the point of even realizing and making it conscious, because the biggest problem I see when I work with people is the subconscious patterns. Like when you say, oh, I don't compare myself, but then you kind of, compare yourself to the neighbor, and you do want that nicer car, and you do want that new iPhone, and you do want, and then it's all these things where you're subconsciously comparing yourself, and then you're judging that as, ooh, it's bad when I compare, so I better not talk to anyone about this, so no one knows, so I can tell the whole world how I never compare myself to anyone, right? So, and then you have a real problem, and the real problem is you're lying to yourself. So what I do with my clients is get them to reflect and be like, oh shit, I actually compare myself. And then we take it to the next level to say, okay, we all do. Let's accept that, and let's love yourself for that. And let's, with baby steps, step out of that and recognize how that's not helping you. And then you go like, yeah, truly, that really doesn't help me. Oh, wow. Okay. And then, so this is the process, and it's really not that complicated.
Right. And it's interesting, Amrit, because I do think there's value in when you sort of look at what people, not necessarily what they attain, but sort of, their life and how they live their lives and how they operate. There's some value in that. But I think the problem is when you try to emulate that. So I think it's a really interesting distinction that needs to be made. It's not like looking at people. So, Amrit's got a beard. Oh my gosh, it's kind of cool beard. Maybe that doesn't mean that, no, I don't want to do that because I'm comparing. No, it's not that at all. What we're saying is, you can take things from people and pattern them into your own lives to do what works for you. Can we not?
Totally. But ultimately, it comes down to the fact to accept what you have and be able to enjoy it. And imagine, it's a little bit like, again, I come back to the playground examples. I worked with kids for a long time. So when you have a kid and they got some really nice new shoes and they're super excited and they're going to the playground with their new shoes and they're like so pumped and expanded and happy. And then some other kid comes who got the super expensive super shoes and says like, oh, you only got those normal ones. Look, I got those ones. And now that same kid, which was excited 5 seconds before, is upset and goes like, oh, my shoes are not the $400 shoes and I'm only got the $200 shoes. Oh, And now like, how do we respond as an adult to that kid, right? We are like, oh, come on, don't compare. Look how great your shoes are. Look how happy you, right? We say all the right things to that kid, but no one says those things to us. And again, that's why it's so essential to have someone in your life who's like a mentor or a coach, where you have those regular meetings and they pull you up and they go like, okay, where are we at? And then you talk about it and you process this and you come through the other side. And that's how true growth happens, because growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone, right? And we as adults, and also as men again, we are so comfortable, right? We're in our world and everything is so comfortable and no one confronts us ever. No one ever tells us the truth to our face, except our wives, of course. And then from them, we pretend they don't know what they're talking about, right? That's because it's too much to handle for us guys. And so it's really this, when you have a coach and you have a coach who you actually pay money, and they confront you and they hold the mirror up and they say like, look at it, this is you. And you go like, oh shit, that is me. Okay. And now you're in your discomfort, you're outside your comfort zone. And that's where growth happens. And then you look back 4 months later and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how much I grew as a human being.
Yeah, no, I think that's I'm glad you made that point around growth and coming out of the comfort zone, because it's the comfort zone is nice. It's warm. It's relaxing. We know it well. Like, why leave, right? But but if you're looking for more, if you're looking to connect to your higher self, you're not going to find it where you're comfortable. You've got to, and so when I'll tie it into the podcast a little bit. When we talk about, stepping into your audacious self, it is coming out of your comfort zone very much, because you're not going to achieve anything beyond what you already have. If you don't, quite frankly, at least that's what I believe.
Exactly. And this is the other thing, we live in this world of manifestation. And it's so easy to manifest and to create reality. And a lot of people misunderstand how that works. They think like, if I sit every morning and I meditate on $1 million in my bank account, on my red Ferrari, then I'm going to get those things. No, that's not how it works. The way life works is life gives you what you vibrate out. So what you and I have today is what we are vibrating. And that's our comfort zone. And if we want that $1 million in our bank account, we need to step out of our comfort zone and vibrate that. And then life just takes a couple months to catch up to that and provides that reality. And then you can go to 10 million. And the reason I love talking about money is because money is such an amazing tool, which we all feel a little bit uncomfortable around. It's a little bit like religion or politics or sex, like, ooh, let's not talk about money so much, except if I have a lot and then I talk about it, right? But it's this thing to really accept the fact and take 100% responsibility to say like, hey, the reason I only make $4,000 a month is because that's what my comfort zone provides. So how do you get out of that? You grow out of your comfort zone. How do you do that? You step into discomfort and you expand. And now suddenly making $8,000 a month is the new normal. And guess what happens at $8,000? You get very comfortable again. And then what? What do? You step out of your comfort zone again. And you say, okay, what would it take to make $16,000 a month? And now gets super interesting. And now money gets super interesting, because money is really just a way to keep score in the game of life.
Yeah, it doesn't become the focus any longer, right? The focus is how do you build on what you've done? And I think a very important point on this is it is very much building on what you've done, right? You're not starting from scratch all over. And when we talk about high achievers and how they become more successful, it's exactly that. They take what they've done, they've had success in it, and how they do that better, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder, Amrit, and we've sort of alluded to a couple times in the conversation, connecting to our higher self. What does that actually mean?
Oh, it's an interesting one, because we already are connected to our higher self, every single one of us. So I really want to send this out to the listeners to recognize, those moments when it was really easy to connect to some higher source, where you're really connected, and that's why people love going to church or to some temples or to the forest or to some beautiful, quiet place where you can become calm and you can close your eyes and your phone is away and the distractions of life are away. And suddenly you're like, I am connected. It's not that like something makes you be connected. You're already connected. You're just removing all the distractions and all the blocks to really experience that connection. And then our lower self, and again, it's not bad or good, right? The higher self is not better than the lower self. It's designed like that, like in this world, in this 3D reality we live in, it's very much about, oh my God, I feel angry, I feel upset, I have these emotions. That's all part of the experience. But this connection to our higher identity, full of love and compassion, is always there. And again, we can step into that just by getting out of the way. It's not rocket science.
Got you. So going back to the example we gave with respects to coming out of our comfort zone, our comfort zone, that would that is that the lower self within our comfort zone? Is that fair to say?
Yes, very much, because that means, oh, look how comfortable I am. Look how far I have come. And again, there's nothing good or bad in there. You just cannot say like, hey, I wonder why I don't make more money. I don't wonder why I don't have more amazing, passionate opportunities in my life. If you don't want to change, you want to stay in your little bubble. And that's the thing. What happens when you remove the distractions and you truly connect to your higher self, right? That's when you see like, oh my God, I'm not done. There is a bigger plan. I had more planned. I want more from this life. Right. And then you're going to have to move, and you're going to have to put on your hiking shoes and get outside, and maybe it's raining and you're walking and you're going up that mountain and you're thinking like, oh my God, what am I doing? I could be sitting on my nice sofa at home watching TV, right. But you chose to go outside and make yourself uncomfortable. Like Wim Hof propagated that so nicely with the ice bath. The ice bath is such an amazing thing, big part because you're making yourself uncomfortable and you're allowing yourself to get into this, oh my God, I'm going to die, so cold, right? In this situation where you're expanding yourself. And again, it doesn't happen at home on your sofa. And again, no judgment, right? There's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. You can choose to smoke weed for the rest of your life and say, this is what I want. But then don't complain that nothing ever changes.
Right. It's just challenging because it can be painful. It can be uncomfortable. It might hurt. I mean, there's all sorts of things why people shy away from it. And quite honestly, it's just not the easier path, right?
As per design, it's really meant to not be the easier path, because otherwise there wouldn't be any growth. I mean, look at all the growth opportunities. When a butterfly hatches, it has to like work itself out of that cocoon. They actually done studies where people were cutting the cocoons for the butterfly, and those butterflies couldn't live because they didn't work up the strength and the muscle strength to be able to fly afterwards. So they would die. I mean, what a concept. Same thing, our human birth or birth of all the animals on this planet is through this extreme transformational experience of being squeezed and pushed out. And we all went through it. And it's like such a transition from this very comfortable place in the belly to, oh my God, what's happening? I got squished. Now it's cold. I'm screaming like I'm disconnected. Oh my God. But we're all choosing that because we know that's where the growth is.
And I love the butterfly analogy because it's just so fitting, right? You think of where you start and then where you finish. And what I love about oftentimes, Amrit, is when you get to that finish side, you look back and you're like, you're why didn't I, or why was I worried about this, or why didn't I take that step sooner? I mean, those are fabulous conversations to have because you're like, why didn't I, right?
Oh, and it's so interesting to have those conversations with people. In the moment when they're thinking about stepping out of their comfort zone again, and they go like, but I'm afraid. Maybe this is going to hurt. Maybe I'm going to lose all my money. Maybe this is going to happen. And then you're like, but look back. Look back at all the challenging situations in your life, not even in mine, but in your life. What did they give you? And they go like, oh my God, every single one of them made me a better human being. Every single one of them expanded me into my growth. And now it gets interesting because now they don't have an excuse anymore not to take action.
Well, and what I love about that too is that sets you up for the next big step, because there's always another big step to
There's
take,
always
right?
going to be another, and it's going to be bigger than the last one, and there's going to be scarier.
Yes.
Like this is how it is for me. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've taken a lot of these big steps, and now the next one in front of me is so freaking scary again.
Yeah.
And so that's how it works.
And I think if we can remember, because I'm all for sort of keeping score and keeping track of your wins. And I think when you can do that, that gives you sort of the momentum and really you ask yourself, because you think about every time you're about to make that big step, that moment of indecision where you're on the precipice or on the cusp and you're like, I don't know. Everyone has felt that at some point, but those who stepped and did it anyways, and they're able to look back. What are they oftentimes saying? They're having those conversations like, why didn't I? And I should have. And right. So it's all about recognizing that the feelings that you're going to feel are natural. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but that still shouldn't prevent you from stepping forward anyways.
Unfortunately, it does prevent 99% of us to make those steps. Right. And so really, I want to encourage more people and help more people and serve more people. And having someone on your side when you make those big decisions is just so amazing and so valuable. I mean, I have 2 coaches in my life, who I connect with on a weekly basis, where I just say like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I'm scared. I need help. And they are going like, okay, and they help me through the process. And I walk away. Okay, I can do this. And they last for about like a week, 10 days before I need to be back on the phone and be like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the journey, right?
Yeah. So you allude to a very interesting point with respect to how we can help others. And so my question, Amrit, is, by me stretching and evolving and expanding and growing, how does that serve other people?
I mean, easy answer, right? We all want to be around those expanded people who have grown, who have done the inner work, who are complete, in whose presence we can feel calm and we feel relaxed. And we don't want to be around these neurotic people who take everything personal and have all their shit not worked out. Right. That's the people we run from, right? And so really, to influence the world, I found over my journey, it's not about going out there and telling people things they don't want to hear about, but to really making yourself so shiny and so radiant that people want to come to you. And they say like, okay, I want to hear from you. Tell me about it, because I'm seeing something which I want. And so I want more of that. So tell me your story. And now it becomes interesting. And I love that about the work.
Well, and we all, you're right. We do want to be around those people that inspire us and motivate us and force us to want to do better and be better. And I mean, it's great energy to be around. And I'm sure, look, we're having this conversation, and I'm sure, you hear that from folks, individuals that, that appreciate the work that you do for them, because you're able to do those things. And so, because this is just a good space to be in, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's amazing. I mean, what a blessing. And this is actually something which came to my mind earlier when you spoke. I think one of these amazing practices, because people like the little tools, so I want to share one of them, is daily gratitude. And it's like such a thing everybody talks about. It's like the gratitude. But sit your ass down for 3 minutes a day and just remind yourself of all the amazing stuff in your life. Right. And it can be like that you can take a hot shower. It can be that you have running water in your home, that you had a meal yesterday, and write it down and really remind yourself, and do that for every day. Do that for 40 days and change your habit around how you relate to yourself and what you are grateful for. I mean, it's going to blow your mind how just this 5-minute practice is going to change your life more than 5 hours of meditation a day.
Well, it's interesting because when you get into the topic of gratitude, and yes, I mean, people, it's something that's not new. Everyone understands what it is. It's the practice of actually, as you said, sitting your ass down and doing it. But it's an interesting process, because I find that once you start to train your mind, because that's really what we're doing, is we're tuning or training our mind to view things differently. all of a sudden the way like two people will see a situation and have a totally different take on it, right? One from a gratuitous mindset, and another one's like, well, it's something different. And so if we can train our mind to do that, it can have ripples throughout our entire lives.
Oh, and it does. And that's the cool thing. And that's why I'm challenging all the listeners for 40-day practice to spend 5 minutes a day. And it would be awesome if you guys could leave some comments and tell us on how that's going, because to do that for 40 days, and again, back to Christianity, that's why Jesus went into the desert for 40 days. Right. It's a number through history, which allows you to break an old habit, takes 21 days. And then to establish the new habit takes 20 days. So that period of that 40 days with that 1 day in the middle, which counts double, is what allows you to break your old habits, your old way of thinking, into this new way of thinking where you're like, oh my God, it's raining. I'm grateful. Oh my God, the sun is shining. I'm grateful. Right. Oh my God, I got to see my child smile. I'm grateful. And that energy and that what that does in your body on a physical level, on a hormonal level, for your nervous system, for every cell in your being is just exceptional.
Got you. No, I think it's wonderful. And that, that practice of gratitude, again, it can certainly have ripple effects on our lives. So it's awesome. I'm glad we touched on that. Amrit, this has been phenomenal conversation. And I do want to ask you one last thing before we wrap up here. And that it really is around, so that individual, someone's out there listening and they're sort of on that cusp that we talked about, right? And they're at that point of indecision. It's that I know I should, but I still can't. And whatever that holding them back, it could be a variety of things. Like, you touched on distractions and distractions. And maybe I can get you sort of to talk about, what sort of distractions can prevent people from making that decision. But for that individual who is on that cusp and trying to figure it out and not sure, what would you say to them?
I would say, trust your heart, go into your courage, right? The French word for heart is cœur, and in English it's courage. It's coming from the heart. To have that trust, follow your path, and do something about it. And as a little gift for you and for your listeners, I want to expand myself and say, like, if you are interested and you want to hear more what a coach can do for you in your life, reach out to me. Find me on TikTok, find me on Instagram, write me an email, look at my website, all that, whatever way works. But reach out and make a change. And if you say, like, my God, I'm not going to reach out to a weird guy with beard and turban, fine too. Find some other coach and reach out to them. Because I know a lot of my colleagues are offering these free sessions because they know how much value they bring to the world with that. And so for me, I love sitting, and I will dedicate 75 minutes of your time, of my time to you, to serve you in that way, if that's something people are interested in. Because that's where my passion lies, and really over the last couple of months, my focus went much more to working with men, because I can really feel like, especially men, between like 30 and 60, who realized, have been in the process, and they realize, oh my God, there is more. What is my higher self? How do I connect? How do I change my diet? How do I change my life around to just be that little bit healthier? How do I overcome this heart condition where my doctor is telling me, like, dude, if you don't pay attention, let's talk about these things. And I think men have been so underserved in the spiritual community in general, because it's really 90% woman, right? As if you go anywhere in a yoga class or in a meditation class, the reason it's 90% woman is because for women, it's much easier to connect to that higher self. For us guys, we need a little bit more help. So my passion is to really step out into the world and serve as many. And so again, long answer to the short question you asked me, what should people do? Say, trust your gut. And if your gut and your heart say, maybe I should take that 75-minute thing with Amrit Singh and do it, just sign up, just send me a message, just do it. I mean, worst case scenario is you walk away and your email ends up on my email list, which you can unsubscribe from.
Right. There you go. That's an easy answer. Easy reply to that one, right? Just take your name off the list and you're good. But listen, I do appreciate and certainly appreciate the offer that you're extending to listeners. So thank you for that. And
Of
I can
course.
tell you, Amrit, I have no idea how long we've been chatting here, but I can tell you're anything but weird. You're definitely not a weird guy. You got it
Thank
all.
you.
I love the mission. I love the passion. And I think anything that we can do to help people get to that higher place, that better place, is a great thing. Because we all that's something. And I using the word should is something I oftentimes like doing, but I do think we should be considering how we need to get to that better place, because that's where we belong, quite frankly.
Right. Yeah. And don't get stuck in your thinking about if that is the right, just take action. Just like write a one-line email, just put a time on my calendar, just spend that time with me. And I promise you'll get something super valuable out of it. And it's really, really not complicated. And also catch yourself if you're not doing it.
Gotcha.
And then examine what all your excuses are.
Yeah, why? Like, why not? Like, what's holding you back? Especially for those individuals who thought about it, right? Like, I can understand if it's a brand new thought, you never thought, you're like, oh, I never thought of coaching before. Yeah. But a lot of times there are people who thought about it and considered it and still not. So it's like, why haven't you, right? And that's a good question to ask.
100%.
Awesome. Amrit, listen, thank you for this. For our listeners, let's give our website your contact information. If they want to connect you with, we encourage them to do so. Where can we send them?
You can look me up under coachingnow.info. So super simple, just coachingnow.info. But really, it's kind of boring landing page. I don't know. You'll find my email address there. But the fun place to find me is on TikTok. And look me up under Amrit Singh. That's like, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And what we talked in the beginning about how the drugs relate. Apparently my TikTok followers love when I talk about the drugs and the weed. And so that's what I do. And so that's a fun place to connect with me. And there you can send me a message too, or find me on Instagram. Like really, it comes down to, shit, I'm going to take action. And then you take your phone and you send a message and you press send, and then you go like, shit, I just did that. And now he's going to write me back. Oh my God. Right. And you're already uncomfortable. And that's good, because what happens when you're uncomfortable? You start to grow.
Yeah. Awesome. Amrit, thanks for this, my friend. Take care and all the best.
All the best. Bye.
Back we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Amrit for being here and engaging in a really healthy conversation about growing through difficult times. I'd encourage you to check him out online. Definitely follow him on his TikTok channel. Very, very entertaining. Does a lot of good stuff. So again, Amrit, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate the conversation that we had, but if there's just one thing I take from my chat with Amrit, it would have to be this. In the pursuit of personal growth and self-improvement, it's essential to acknowledge that growth often comes hand in hand with discomfort. Stepping outside our comfort zones challenges our beliefs, and facing the unknown can be actually really intimidating. But it's precisely these experiences and through these experiences that we can unlock our true potential and embark on a transformative journey of self-discovery. Let's explore practical strategies and insights on how to grow through discomfort and embrace the opportunities that it presents. Discomfort is not always a negative state to be avoided. In fact, it can be a powerful catalyst for personal growth. When we challenge ourselves and step into unfamiliar territory, we open up new perspectives, skills, and opportunities. Embracing discomfort allows us to stretch our limits, build resilience, and cultivate a growth mindset. Rather than staying away from discomfort, view it as a sign that you're pushing yourself beyond your current boundaries and expanding your horizons. Developing self-awareness is crucial when navigating discomfort. Take the time to reflect on your own emotions, thoughts, and physical sensations when faced with challenging situations. By understanding your triggers and patterns of response, you can gain valuable insights into your own limitations and areas for growth. Journaling, meditation, and seeking feedback from others can all aid in developing self-awareness and providing clarity on the areas that you need to focus on. Set meaningful goals. The goal setting, it's essential for personal growth. When establishing objectives, aim for balance between ambition and achievability. Stretching yourself too far beyond your current capabilities may lead to overwhelming discomfort, but at the same time, setting goals that are too easily attainable may hinder your growth. Break down your goals into smaller, manageable steps and celebrate each milestone along the way. By consistently challenging yourself with purposeful goals, you will become more comfortable with discomfort and develop the resilience needed to overcome obstacles. Growing through discomfort is not always an easy journey. It's crucial to practice self-compassion along the way. Treat yourself with kindness, understanding, and forgiveness as you navigate these challenging experiences. Acknowledge that discomfort is a natural part of the growth process, and setbacks and mistakes are opportunities for learning and improvement. Surround yourself with a supportive network of friends, mentors, or even a coach who can provide guidance and encouragement during these challenging times. While it's important to challenge yourself, it's equally important to take incremental steps when venturing into discomfort. Gradually exposing yourself to situations that may make you uneasy and build up your tolerance over time. By progressively pushing your boundaries, you allow yourself to grow without overwhelming yourself. Each small step taken outside your comfort zone builds confidence and expands the realm of what feels comfortable. Growing through discomfort is an ongoing process that requires patience, self-reflection, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. By recognizing the value of discomfort, cultivating self-awareness, setting meaningful goals, and taking incremental steps, you can navigate the challenges of personal growth with resilience and determination. Remember, growth rarely occurs within the confines of our comfort zones. It's in those moments of discomfort that we have the opportunity to discover our true potential, develop new skills, and expand our perspectives. Ultimately, growing through discomfort is a courageous act that can lead to a profound personal transformation. Remember, true growth happens when we step outside of our comfort zones and embrace the discomfort that accompanies and use that as fuel to propel us forward of a life of personal fulfillment and endless audacious possibilities. We've sadly come to the end of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, I send my thanks and appreciation to our amazing listeners and all those lovers of Audaciousness for their ongoing support. It is always appreciated, and so for that, I say thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audacious Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.